We're live.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. Okay, so we're here. We're at a new time by request so that all of you people that have not just sort of gone off and be free and like left corporate to start your own thing can join us. And we're talking about we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, but I feel like there was a few things that you and I wanted to catch up on before we dove into that, because we like to just sort of kind of ease our way and talk about how the synchronicities of life are just like bringing up these conversations.
Well, yeah, and this is like also we're kind of selfish because this is the only time we get to like see each other face to face all week. So I want to motherfucking catch up with you too. You have a lot of exciting stuff going on, and our conversations have been very interesting this week. So I mean, I think there's a lot. Oh my God, got close up real quick. I think there's just a lot going on about really finding our own footing and finding our own calling, so to speak. I love that you are very much in, I hate to use it, but I shouldn't hate to use it, this like feminist role. You're understanding you need to empower women more and becoming more of an activist. And those have been interesting conversations. And we're talking the other night about like how you and I kind of play off each other's energy. And for the last couple of months, I've kind of been in activist mode, with everything going on. And now you're in activist mode. And now I'm like trying to be more chill. So I just love that you're like about female empowerment right now. You're fully coming into like your gifts. And I'm just in love with it, man. So I think I just wanted to like drool over you for a second.
Well, I don't feel like that part of it's going away, because I think that once I became aware of like some of the things that I feel like are just have been really ingrained into our culture, it's like I couldn't look away. And like the whole thing about like business, really being built by men for men and all of those different pieces and working with business owners, I was just like, wow, like even these men that I work with, they have this like feminine aspect that they're almost like squashing down because they feel like there's this other way to be doing things with like KPIs and metrics, and that intuition doesn't belong there. And I think it's been me all along, but I like finally named it and I claimed it. And I think we talked about sort of this phase of giving less fucks. And I feel like that has been a big theme. I actually think it goes with imposter syndrome, that I think that you and I have both been on this journey where there's sort of been these like different pieces of us that we've stepped back into and like remembered and reclaimed. And I think it like fits, although I don't think you're getting quieter, because I saw the photos that you were posting on Facebook. I saw them with these like sexy poses and sexy faces. And you're just like, yeah, no, I'm just like being like, very chill and zen. I'm like, okay, mister.
Well, no, I mean, so I don't think it's a phase of giving less fucks. I think it's the age now of giving no fucks, And I think we're both getting to that point where it's like, if we're fully gonna be who we are, and I think this forum has really empowered us as well to be able to talk to the people and interact with the people. And I love like the little bit of feedback. I hope we get more feedback, good or bad, that we've gotten from people about how they're feeling empowered. And, for me, real quick, I can't wait to talk to Kim about this. Part of like imposter syndrome for me has been always in the recovery world. I was asked to speak at one point a whole bunch about my recovery. And even then I was like, oh my God, I have nothing to share. And I shouldn't be speaking about this. And, 3 years sober and having rebuilt my life and, hitting rock bottom. And I'm telling myself I have nothing to share. So I feel that imposter syndrome, but also part of it is feeling like I have to fit a certain model to be like a representative of someone who got sober. And to be a leader or a shining light, I have to like watch what I say, and I can't be too sexual and I can't be too crude. And really like being around you and Crystal and other people have come on this. I'm like, what am I doing? I need to fucking be me, And so I think it's just both of us are coming into that phase where it's like time to fully be us. And I think that female empowerment, I don't think it's ever going to go away. I think it was innately in you. And it's just now like feeling like it can be unleashed. Is that how you're feeling lately?
Yeah, I can't even really explain exactly what is going on, but I see it happening for a variety of different people. Um, I feel like it's something, you know, that 8-8 portal, like I want to say it's like the Lion's Gate like portal. I was like reading something about it. I was like, oh shit, like this sounds kind of like what I'm going through right now. And so I feel like you and I need to have a conversation like later today or tomorrow or something about that, because I think it's tomorrow. But I feel like for me, it's actually more so been with like the spiritual work, because I feel like anything that I've developed like credentials or experience around, like the imposter syndrome doesn't show up for me, but it's in those places where things that are more like innate gifts and talents and anything around the spiritual work, where I feel, especially around other people that come in that I see as like more senior to me, that I sort of like really respect in that area, like that if they like hop onto one of my lives for me to like give them a reading or something, I like go to my head and I'm just like, I do feel that feeling of like, oh my God, like they're going to know that I'm not good at this. I don't do it like them, that I'm like doing this wrong or I'm making it up. And so it's definitely something that I notice, and it's, I think that we're always a work in progress, but I feel like the more that we can sort of name it and be aware of it, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm fully formed. I'm not going to be like, oh, like I never have this, like I've gotten over it, because I don't know if we ever fully do. Like if we're fully going to our edges at all points in time, like I think that it might just be something that's present that we get to sort of play with and create from. Like, I don't know. What do you think of that?
Well, I think if you were like, oh, I've gotten over this, I'd fucking stop talking to you. I mean, we have to be teachable and humble, but I'm also saying, like, it's so funny because I watch you from outside. Like, I hop on your lives and your stuff like that all the time, and I just marvel at you, and I think you're so beautiful and you're so wonderful for that light that you bring to the world. And it's funny to hear you having the same conversation in your head that I'm having in my head. You know, like even when you asked me to really start doing this and formulating this, even though it was my idea first, like
It was.
I was like, I can't speak with Ashley. She's like this, she's awesome. She has her own business. She's so spiritual. And it's like, we have these deep spiritual conversations on our own. And I've read the same books as you. I go to the same seminars, but I'm still thinking I can't stand up to be up to par with you. You know, but it's that inner critic. It's, you know, that feeling like we're an imposter. And I think that we just have to fucking let go of that rope, man, and just stand in the brilliant light that we're meant to stand in.
I have the reverse though of that, because you have this like crazy near-death experience, like story of like becoming sober and like refining yourself, that there's times where I have the opposite, where I'm like, why would someone ever want to listen to me like do a TED talk or write a book? I don't have some like crazy experience like that to like inspire people. So I have that same opposite version. But I do want to name that I think one thing that's really interesting is that it's actually those that are the leaders, that are the high achievers, that I think actually like experience this the most. And there's a lot of leaders that we have, because I do feel like it is actually the rebels and the misfits that are the leaders, especially coming into this like period of rebuilding kind of humanity in a new way that we're in it right now. And I really want those of you to listening. I feel like Janine right now. She's not giving any fucks either.
We know that about Janine. She don't give no fucks.
But I think that it's like when you accomplish something big, that I was reading, there's a book by Amy Cuddy called Presence that I really like. And she has her like TED talk with the power poses about how when people achieve something really good, that they're afraid that they like can't top it, that like, they're like, oh my God, people think I'm so great now, that how am I ever going to like live up to that or do something that great again? And I feel like thinking of all of us as being like creative and creators, like that really gets in our way of showing up when we're thinking those kinds of thoughts.
Well, it's funny that you talked about like light workers and stuff like that. Can I talk a little bit about imposter syndrome for those who are not? I'm vaguely familiar with it. I can't wait for Kim to further educate me on it. But can I talk a little bit about some like cliff notes I found about imposter syndrome?
Yeah,
So
go for it.
So imposter syndrome, Lamont was asking me the other day, is like, it sounds like a lot of negative self-talk, and it is negative self-talk, but it's your mind getting really creative with that negative self-talk. At least that's my perception of it. So imposter syndrome is the idea that you only succeed by luck, not by talent. Studies have found that women are uniquely affected by it. And Kim wrote an amazing article that you shared with me exactly about that. And hopefully she'll share about that. But it also affects perfectionists. It affects what they call the natural genius. If a natural genius has to struggle to achieve something, they think they're not worthy of it. Because, natural genius is things, and I think of you when I think of natural genius. Sorry, don't mean to inflate your ego. But if they have to work for something, they think they're not good enough for it. And then soloists, people that are used to doing things alone, if they achieve something within a group, they then feel that like they're an imposter, they're a fraud, because they're so used to achieving things on their own that it doesn't match naturally how they go about life. So then they think they've achieved it by being a fraud. So imposter syndrome is like when your head starts to tell you, and I felt this in relationship, I felt this in business, I felt this in recovery, that you're only succeeding sheerly by luck and not by the talent and the hard work you've put forth. And I think a lot of people we associate have that feeling and haven't been able to really name it or understand it. So hopefully Kim's going to give us some awesome insight on this. I know she is. What's your thoughts on that?
I wanted to bring in Lamont's comment. So yeah, he's saying women are socialized to think of themselves as less than. Yeah, I feel like I noticed like all of the cultural programming, like from everything around us that tells us like that we're not enough. And so I feel like it totally seeps in. So I see that, Lamont, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's going to be some great things that Kim's going to share. And I know that I threw it out there in the Prosperous Rebel group just to talk to everyone there and be like, how do you guys get past this? What do you do? Because I know that it's something that almost everyone, I think it's like estimated that 70% of people experience it. So I do want to bring in Kim. And so it's Dr. Kim Parkins, and I'm going to let her kind of go through her introduction of anything that she wants to share from us, but she is a PhD in organizational psychology. And I love that she is all about like the human potential side of things, not about the side of psychology that is looking to basically understand what goes wrong, but like really high performance, like what goes on there when someone is like really just like thriving and amazing. And also some fun facts is that she used to be a pro speed skater.
What?
I mean, super interesting. You guys are going to love her. And also a journalist. Like, I mean, what hasn't Kim done? But let's bring Kim in so she can.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Kim.
Happy to be here with you guys. Yay.
So what else should we share with people about you that have never come across you before? What would you want them to know about you?
I think I would want them to know that I have this like resume that everybody's like, ooh, this and that, but I have experienced imposter syndrome every day of my life about that. So,
damn.
Yeah, so that's like the good news and the bad news, because the bad news is, of course, no matter what you do, it's not like if you're prone to it, it doesn't go away, but there are ways of handling it. You can still get things done. So. Yeah.
So I would love to hear your perspective on it, because I know you had like a blog post on it. I know you have a particular interest in like women in business and leadership as well. But how are you? What about this topic were you like, yeah, I want to be a part of that conversation?
This is such a great topic because pretty much when I coach women executives at any level, this is so much a part of women's life. And I don't want to say that men don't experience these same feelings, because I think that they do. I think that they just have, in their socialization, have a lot more practice at covering up and dismissing those feelings than we do. Right? So if you can feel it, so as James was saying, like the imposter syndrome is not like my work is bad. It's more like I shouldn't be here. It's like almost an identity thing of I'm different than these people in this major way, and therefore I'm disqualified for doing whatever it is that somebody has seen fit to have me do.
Ooh, that brings up
Yeah.
some things because I mean, I think that we named, this the Rebels and Misfits because it is the people that always felt like they're somewhat outside. So I wonder, did we is our name inspired by imposter syndrome or maybe there's more to it?
No, I think your name is perfect, and it's inspired me because obviously I'm not your average organizational psychologist here. So, but I think that there's that point of identity that really comes into a lot of this, And so when we talk about like you were just now talking about seeing each other's resume, and I'm assuming you guys obviously have been working together for a long time from the way you interact, and like, oh wow, they have this thing, and that's amazing. I could never touch that, and they have this thing that's amazing. I could never touch that, and yet both here you are, right? You're both doing it, and you're both here doing it.
We're
right?
doing it anyway. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just real quick, Kim. The name came from us feeling like we don't fit into the spiritual community. That we're not Zen enough. That we're not. Like we were talking to you beforehand. Like we cuss a lot. We got dirty, and so like it's the imposter syndrome. Like, oh, we're not spiritual because we're dirty, we're unfiltered, and and stuff like that. So I think that the name is partially inspired by imposter syndrome.
Absolutely,
you can't be part of the spiritual community because you're nasty.
Exactly, and so and as you also pointed out, it's those differences that also give you a unique proposition that people become interested in as well. And so it's when you turn that around and you own what what you are and what you have and what you're into, and then the person that it has made you because of that's when not only do you have a better time of it, but that way it's kind of like, you howl and you can reach your own pack that way.
I love that.
That. What I really love about that actually is how we usually put it in the bucket because we like to label things as good or bad, but this is actually putting it in a bucket of like, well, what does this attract? Like what's actually positive about it? Like, do you see that other side of it that exists too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of the way of making friends with this, because again, it's not going to go away. And one of the things I found for women, often executives that I've talked to, they think maybe I should get more education. Maybe I should get that MBA. Maybe I need to get another credential or something. And the idea is that if I felt like I knew what I was doing more, then I wouldn't be feeling these feelings of not fitting in. And I'm here with a PhD telling you that is not going to happen.
So yeah, I totally see about like why this has been so programmed into women to think that they got in their position but with luck. But in your professional outlook or your life experience, do you think it also affects minorities, period? Do you think that Black people think that they only got there by sheer luck or because of affirmative action, or gay people, or do you think that those are two separate issues, or is that the same issue with imposter syndrome?
That's a good question. I don't know if I could disentangle those right away. I think I'm going to think, this is off the top of my head. So, I'm a woman of color too, and I'm feeling like it ends up being more about some of the training that we get as women. If, so I'm going to say in this case, white women especially, where we are taught to not blow our own horn and not, put our resume out there and brag about our accomplishments and support other people, and that's not necessarily the same training that all types of women are brought up with. So not everybody's got that thing, but that's something that definitely, white women experience as part of their social role growing up. And I think it has to do a lot with that. And also, a lot of times, and this is something I encountered from my speed skating, was that women just are allergic to competition because we cannot talk about this. I tried to study competition among women for my dissertation, and that project fell flat because nobody wanted to talk about it. I'd have focus groups and everybody goes, "Oh no, everything's fine. We're just not talking about, we're not competing with each other and underneath it, bludgeoning each other under the table, I mean, nobody wants to talk about it. So I used to joke when I was speed skating because like some races are men and women separately. I mean, it's all, and some races are everybody kind of goes together, right?
Mhm.
And so, you know, this is guys on the start line, right? Oh, I'm gonna kick your ass today so bad. You're not even gonna know what hit my dust so hard. It's gonna be so embarrassing. I would hate to be you after this race, right? This is women on the start line. Gosh, I hope I can keep up with you today.
Whoa, no.
You're so great that you look like you're in fabulous shape. Good luck out there, right? And you know, and it's because we just can't talk about this stuff out loud. We don't have any practice at you know, being what I love. There's a coach named Tara Moore that I love who talks about being an arrogant idiot. You know, we try not to be an arrogant idiot all the time, and so we don't have any practice at just going ahead and being that arrogant idiot.
I love that.
Yeah. I think that is so interesting. Like that there's been sort of these gender defined boxes. Like it'd be weird. A man would feel weird, right? To like show up in that way of like, hey buddy, like good luck. Right. And that it's, I don't know what that is, but it's really something that I want to like sit with and see how else it comes up. There's some people like that were chiming in and they're like saying I'm the only woman that I don't know, that every woman I know has it except for me, but it's so prominent. But what are some other ways that it's kind of sneaky? Because I know that things like this tend to evolve and they show up in sort of sneakier ways. Like, have you seen that?
Oh, I've seen this in so many sneaky ways. I mean, first of all, you know, when you say all the excuses for luck of why I ended up here, it's like, well, you know, I guess I only you know, made the team because Helen didn't show up or something like that. You know, that happens all the time. People people tell their stories that and they really sell themselves on this idea that it's an element of luck, or that they just showed up at the right time and maybe they just didn't have enough. You know, there's something outside of themselves.
So they won by default, pretty much.
Yeah, they won by default. Exactly. And there's another thing that I've noticed a lot of women as they're climbing ladders in organizations often are really good at doing what everybody else tells them to do. But then suddenly they get promoted into this, and great, you're now the head of. What do you think we should do? And they're like, I don't know. I've never been asked to what I think we should do before. And that is the point where it kind of comes to light a lot of all of these feelings about being like trying to conform to everybody else's standards of what you should be doing. And then when there aren't any, then it's like, uh-oh, I don't really know what to do or what's acceptable here. And there's this real just pause. Have you experienced this in some of the work you've done?
Yes.
Bullshit. Because I was just thinking. I was just thinking right now. I've worked with Ashley professionally way back in the heyday, and I was like thinking, like, I'm so blessed that working with Ashley. Like, the minute she was like, I got some fucking ideas, and we're gonna rock with these ideas. So I think that's kind of why you're coming into like your new understanding of like the male construct, is because you've always had that gumption and that go ahead. And that's what I love about you, that you're seeing a lot of women don't feel that freedom. And it's really fascinating to listen to Kim say that women, like once they get put in charge, they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm so used to being told what to do. But I love that about you, Ashley, but I may have overspoke, but.
Well, I see that, but I think it depends what space I'm in, because I feel like with the spiritual community, I found that I don't feel like spiritual enough for those people, or like businessy enough for those, and I feel somewhere sort of in between. And I think that it's there. And also I've noticed it when I feel like on certain topics, when I go to like write a post for my group or a blog post, that my first instinct is to go see what someone else says about it and to not source from like my own knowledge, and to just trust in that. And I've been catching myself, and I've just been like, okay, like we're not doing that anymore.
That's exactly it, Ashley, because it's not so much about my work is terrible. It's about, do I fit in with these people? You know, so it's an identity thing. Like, should I write this for that spiritual group? Are they going to accept this? As opposed to, well, this is what I want to tell you guys today.
Okay. Kim, what are some tips to combat the imposter syndrome? What you said you've experienced it almost every day or every day. How do you find yourself combating that imposter inside the head, that negative thinking?
I think for me, a lot of it has been kind of on a journey of self-acceptance, so that instead of coming again up to other people's standards of what they're expecting me to be, because I think that's how a lot of women sort of do, is sort of pouring into existing molds. But I don't think any of the three of us here are really interested in existing molds at this point. And so that means, if we're going to go out, we're going to do new things, and we're automatically being leaders, because we're out there blazing trails. If you're not going to do things by just like, what is it they want from me? Check all those boxes, and you're definitely blazing a trail. And that has to kind of come in from a place of self-acceptance within, and that start seeing those things that you're, oh gosh. So when I did a lot of work in corporations. So I really thought this was the way to go, especially after grad school, which is expensive, right? And then it's like, I'm going to go work with some of those, top tech companies and things like that. And I'm just going to see what everybody else is doing and kind of do that and make it work. And of course, that went absolutely terribly, because I look at what they're doing and I'm like, I don't want to do that. Why are you doing this? It's terrible. And then once I kind of embraced that about myself, that it was like, you know what? I don't want my life to look like that, even though that's what they're aspiring to. It's okay for me to have different goals and different things I want to be doing. Then things started to kind of come together. So that's like the macro level, right? On the macro level, you get really more and more and more radical self-acceptance. And then on a momentary level, practicing being a little bit more of an arrogant idiot and just kind of putting things out there and see what happens. And you can do it with kind of a light touch, so that you aren't worried about like this, it must be the perfect thing news out there. It's like, let's just see what happens. And being able to, feeling cute, might delete later, right?
I think I do that without realizing it, because people ask me about like different things with business, and I'm like, oh, I'm just very trial and error. I just try a bunch of stuff, and some of it works, and I'm like, cool, I'll do more of that. And other stuff totally doesn't. And that there's, I love that, what you're saying. So that's I guess more of a tactic than I realized.
Yes, it's a good tactic.
Or of a strategy.
In a time when you can retract stuff and you can move and flex, and that's really how most really successful businesses have been made at this point in time. Not with like a 5-year plan, but with just like, we'll do stuff and we'll see what kind of works. And if it works, we'll keep doing that. And if it doesn't work, well, probably they will really remember that part, So that's so those are a couple of things that I have found to be really helpful with this. And there's one last thing I'm going to tell you, which is, when like, this is an identity issue. This is an I belong, I'm part of this, I'm like these people kind of issue. It's not about the quality of your work. The rocket scientists I know are the people who have the most imposter syndrome. Right? The most capable people. And it's because they can see all of the things that the different ways this project could have gone, or the choices I might have made, but did I make the right ones? I don't know. Somehow here we are. Right? And so the people who really can have a lot of intellect and bring a lot of experience and possibility to the work are really the ones who tend to experience this the most. So the fact that you're feeling it is probably means that you're pretty good at this and you're on the right track.
So Kim, just one question that comes to mind for me though is, especially being from the recovery world, we're really taught to notice our ego and make sure that our ego doesn't run rampant. And I love what you're saying about like throwing shit at the wall, see what sticks, kind of be that arrogant idiot. But like, how do you have any tips, or have you experienced like really combating ego versus bravo, like having the courage to try things and fail versus just going by ego? Because that's my biggest fear, is being generated by ego instead of bravery,
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Ego, to me, when people are doing it out of ego, it's out of like trying to maintain a fake identity, a sense of it out in the world.
That is such an awesome answer. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So if it's your real identity or your mask is slipping or whatever it is, then that's not really a place of ego. That's more a place that is more of a place of authenticity. And if you're doing things just to make sure that nobody saw that, that's more the ego part.
Thank you for that. That just made me feel like I could breathe a sigh of relief, because even creating with Ashley, I'm always like, oh, I don't want to, feel like I'm generating from ego. And that if you're, creating passionately versus, trying to put on a facade, then go for it. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I do want to invite people that are listening right now to just start putting some questions in the comments, letting us know how this is landing for you, and we could pull them in. We could be like, yes, Melissa, we feel you, Melissa, and really bring it into the conversation. I think I want to go back to this self-acceptance thing, because I feel like this sense of loving yourself is so connected to showing up fully as who you are and letting more and more of that show every day. And I think that there's sort of a magnetism to that even if you and I aren't exactly alike, that we tend to gravitate towards those people that are just being themselves. Have you noticed that at all? That people just have this way of gravitating to you?
I've noticed that when people are being their real selves, and you can feel it because they're co-creating with you in the moment, as opposed to going down a little path and checking off boxes. And there's nothing replaces that feeling. And that's why people want the authenticity and want to come from your heart. With my psychologist hat on for a second, people want their leaders to especially be, they want to be able to guess their leaders' behavior. They want to be able to know that who you are today is who you're going to be tomorrow. Also, so they can have some predictability. And that's something that people want from their leaders without really knowing that they want this. So that is another thing of authenticity. And that doesn't mean that you have to do something to make sure you're consistent. It's more, if you keep showing up authentically, then people will get the idea and you will be that without you having to engineer it.
So letting go more than just holding on for dear life, letting go.
Yeah, letting go. Yeah, letting go of control of how you were perceived or whether you belong here. There's some friends of mine have a phrase that I adopted a long time ago, which is, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm the best person for the job.
I think the other piece that comes up with this is that we're not the same from day to day, that sometimes you feel a little kind of out there and sexy, James, yesterday with your photos.
You just love bringing that shit up, don't you?
You might be kind of more zen and calm, and other times you're going to be more feisty. And that I think people tend to get caught up in thinking that there's this expectation that they're the same. Have you seen feel that way as well when they start to unpack this?
Well, people, this is here's a fortunate or unfortunate reality, which is that nobody's really thinking that hard about you. They might think, well, I didn't notice that before, but they're not necessarily whoa, you have changed in a way that I don't recognize. It's more I didn't notice that before, and now they've added a new dimension to you.
Well, what I was really noticing for myself is that I haven't been fully allowing myself to own every piece of myself. And so what you're saying is that leaders, real true leaders that can go far, they own every piece of themselves. And I think that's where people might find it inconsistent that all of a sudden I take sexy photos, as my friend Ashley likes to bring up. But it's because I haven't owned that part of myself. I haven't allowed myself to be sexual most of the time, because I feel like I have to stay in a box. That if I'm going to be a representative, even though I'm fucking not, of the sober community, I got to stay in a box. And real leaders own every part of themselves. And I think that's the journey right now.
if there's one thing from psychology that we know about leaders, it's that they're open to experience. That's a personality trait. It's called openness to experience. And the higher you, that means that you're willing to be present in the moment, let the past go, do what is, and change what you're doing to suit your circumstances. And so if you're, experimenting with what this side, putting this side of you out there looks like, then that's part of being open to experience.
What did that feel like, James, to put your sexy side out there on the internet?
You're lucky Kim's here right now, all right? I will deal with you when the PhD leaves the podcast. It felt great, all right? It felt great. But I did want to ask you, you did come from the corporate world, right? And you went through this journey of really self-acceptance. Was there a lot of fear there that you weren't going to be successful as you really came into your own? Because, I do watch Ashley privately go through that, even though she's brilliant, and I'm going through it as well. Like, did you go through that fear that I can't leave this construct or I'm going to fail?
Oh, I had so much fear around it. And the fear really got in my way because people would see me trying to say the things that a corporate person would say here, and they would be like, something's wrong, something's off. So I actually had feedback that was like, we know you're a weirdo. We'd like you to be more of the weirdo you are. So it's but again, we have to go find those places in ourselves. And so I do a lot of public speaking, and I was wrestling with doing sort of this academic talk about all these things out there. And my wonderful coach said, do you believe what you're saying right now? And I was like, well, the research says. And it's like, no, do you believe it? And I said, I don't really care about it that much. It's just a thing that I can talk about. And they were like, well, I can tell.
Dang.
And so they said, you said it with a gentle, beautiful heart. She said, you can either find a way to believe this and care about it, or find something else to talk about that you do care about. And that was the way I was gonna.
Can I ask you what you did?
Oh, I said, you know what? I'm gonna talk about stuff I care about.
Awesome.
And it worked really great. And I got to do keynotes all over the world last year because of it. And then not going anywhere but my 10th this year. But it makes a huge difference to be able to connect personally. And for women leaders especially, and I think that's something that we want. We want our women leaders to be warm and real and connected. And that's part of that's part of what we're expecting from them. And that works much better. A lot of women, older women, were taught to be as male as possible, just downplay the femininity. It does not work. It never did work. And we're in a new generation now where we want to be the strong, whatever gender presentation is, do that rather than try to fit a role.
I feel like even though we're not talking about that balance of masculine and feminine energies within all of us, I'm really curious what you think this world is going to become when it actually has more people owning that feminine, more people dropping sort of those masculine, representations of how they should be showing up in business, more women stepping into leadership roles. What do you think leadership is going to look like? I think that's a fun thing to
I love
talk
that.
about.
I'm doing some research right now about what if we actually took women's roles, social roles, and recentered that as a way of doing leadership rather than trying to make women conform to a male version about it too. So I'll give you my optimistic version of this. What the world would look like. And it would look allowing everybody to be more their authentic self and really focusing more on the behaviors that you need from people rather than the way they are being in the world. So behaviors might mean, I need this thing by noon on Tuesday. If you want to do it Sunday afternoon, that's cool. I don't really care. If you need to do it in pieces, 15 minutes a day, whatever, but this is when I need it. And if you can't give me that, then maybe we do have an actual problem, but that's what I actually need from you, rather than I need you to pose in a certain way and don't say in the meeting and don't do up talk and don't do, all of these things, right? Because that's all a legacy of a time and a lot of, both our ideas of what leadership looked like and the reality, going back 20, 30 years, has been of that there are certain ways that we appear in the workplace, and they have to be really focused on the topic, and they have to be you are here during these hours and you focus like a laser during these times, and nothing else is really happening for you. I mean, right now everybody's working from home. People have children and cats. I have this very needy cat down here who likes to jump in my lap, And the fact is that women's lives are about include other people in that, and we're not going. And so I see the future as being not needing to pretend that it's just you and that you're laser focused on work in order to get to make the things happen out for your career and have the career you want and have the life that you want. So there's a lot there, but that's my overview.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense because I think about just like the approach, like the coaching approach, or like, I guess every coaching approach is a little bit different, but I always would tell people, hey, it's not like it used to be where it's you leave your personal life at the door and that doesn't matter and you just show up to work, but it's like you are a whole person. This does not exist on some separate island from the rest of your life, and like we're gonna look at all of it, and that whatever's going on in your personal life, like it's gonna have an impact, and it's all valuable and it's all welcome. And that approach just like speaks to my heart because it feels like we are allowed to be us and there's not something wrong with us for right, because we all kind of feel like we're doing it wrong when that impacts our performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Where it isn't going to be about the image you project, but about what actually happens. Do you bring out a creative side of me when I work together? That'll become more important than what your resume says. And so I think optimistically, I think that about us having the systems that we create serve us as humans rather than us serving the systems.
I love that.
Yes. I wonder if it's going to impact this like imposter syndrome thing. Does imposter syndrome exist in that world?
What a great question. I would have to say not as much, because it's not then about who we are as much as what we do. So, and I think that would be the recipe for everybody feeling a lot less imposter syndrome. And also, one of the things also about imposter syndrome is that when people have suddenly get privileges, that's often when they feel it, when it just made it like an advancement, and now suddenly they don't have to do things that they used to have to do. Then they're kind of like, ooh, uh-oh. So I think that there, as I see the workplace in general becoming kind of more fluid. They call it, again, for better or worse, they call it kind of like the Hollywood economy, the gig economy, when people are doing a little bit of this over here with these people and a little bit over here with these other people. And I think this is being reflective of who we are as people rather than us fitting in a bunch of roles or just being our resumes.
Yeah. Well, what is the James?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, baby.
Well, I know that we're getting to like the end of our time with Kim, so I want you to ask something else, because I have something that I just wanted her to make sure that she got to share with everybody. But what were you going to ask?
Well, no, it was more of an observation as you two were speaking. I was thinking about like the male bosses and the influence that I've had in my life. They're the ones that, and it's kind of silly, they have the more feminine energy. And by feminine, and it's so silly that we relegate this to feminine, they were nurturing and gave a shit about my whole life, not just me as an employee, just not when I clocked in and clocked out. And from that, I became such a more productive person. And I think it's kind of really sad that we relegate someone being nurturing as feminine. And, all the bosses that I've had that have put on that like arrogant machismo like attitude, I've wanted to rebel against and been like, you can kind of fuck off, because I'm not just a number. I'm not just, like a paycheck, and it's been those men that had the nurturing feminine energy that I worked harder for and I cared about. And that's what I hear you saying, that if we do step into the divine feminine energy, that a lot of spiritual people are seeing us do it. It's just about being fucking nurturing, And
it absolutely is.
It's so sad that we say only women, Sorry to interrupt you, Kim.
No, totally. That's, I call it soldiers versus shepherds, right? Because that way it's a little bit more gender neutral, but it's really about, are we here to we're fighting a war and you better take care of yourself, soldier? Or is it more like, hey, sheep, you need something? You good? Oh, look, you look like you're developing a thing here. Let's fix that, and it's sort of where the focus is.
I could see that being the perfect way to approach imposter syndrome as well, because sometimes we do try to wage war against these parts of ourselves that we don't like. But it's sort of like, hey, imposter syndrome, come and sit down with me. Have a cup of tea. Let's just talk about what's going on here.
Yeah.
Let's be curious about it. And so I kind of like that too.
That's definitely the way to do it. That's definitely the way to do it, is make all those things, make them part of you.
Is there anything that you would want to share with people? I'm not sure if there's just the way that you view your purpose, your role in this world, where you just always want to wake something up in front of people. I don't care if it's related to imposter syndrome or not, but I just really want to give you an opportunity to say anything that you want to say, because there's going to be people that are listening to you that are going to probably hear something at the right time, and whatever comes to you, it doesn't have to be profound. It could just be anything. What else do you want to say today?
Oh, that is the sweetest proposition. I love that. From the time I was a little kid, I always felt like I was a person who's going to go out and have these very rarefied experiences and bring the knowledge back for other people. And I have always, I've done a lot of different things for work. I mean, part of how I got into organizational psychology was as a skater. I started really enjoying teaching other people, and the stuff that I'd learned in competition, and doing the techniques just to teach that to other people, because it was not always easy to find sources of this before the internet. and so bringing knowledge back for other people is really my main thing. And right now I'm working on some anti-racism stuff in a way that I think is a much gentler and more efficacious way of working at it than just throwing people in the deep end, And I'm working on, and I've got a couple other projects going about, centering human lives as opposed to centering the systems that we have now. And that's what I really want to work on and keep working on, in whatever way I can to help give people some grounding and some things that they can come back to they go run with and make stuff happen and make the world better.
So Kim, for when this goes on Spotify, can you let people know where they can look more into your blog, more about you, connect with you? Is there a certain website that we can throw out there? Because I'm going to be looking at everything you just said about a gender racism. I need to learn from you, girl. I get real worked up about that, and I need to find a gentler way.
It's a lot. So my website is kimperkins.com. There's going to be a lot of new things coming up on there. I work with Linnea Sims at Outer Work and Interplay is going to come up on there. And I'm going to be doing a couple of different newsletters on a couple of different topics. So please go there, sign up for my newsletter, and I will see you soon because of that. And it's been such a pleasure being here with you guys.
Thank you so much. So much.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate you so much. I'm glad that the universe connected us, and thanks for joining us in your pod. We'll see you soon, hopefully, on another topic. If we can lure you back. Bye.
Anytime. Bye-bye.
Thank you, love.
That was so beautiful. That made me happy. I feel like talking to Kim just made me happy.
Well, I'm so selfish because I'm thinking about the subtext that because I know what's going on in your personal life, and I'm like, yes, Ashley needed to hear that. I'm trying to be here.
What? We could go ahead. We could air it out here. We're okay.
Just so much of it because you are. God, I feel like I'm just stroking your dick this whole time, but you were just so creative and vibrant and beautiful, and everyone that I know from my life that's come to know you like agrees, but just like really like how she's talking about just throwing it out there, and you are doing it, but like I just love when you're real fired up and you know that you're on the path that you should be on, which is Ashley being Ashley full speed ahead. And I just love that she's saying like, do it, you know, be a little arrogant.
Yeah, you know, I feel like things have definitely shifted within me, and it's hard. Like, it's really hard to sometimes like name it, because I just feel like my higher self, I've been doing a lot of like spiritual work and getting readings and doing other things and really releasing things that didn't feel good for me anymore. And it's almost like I had to be in the struggle a little bit and feel a little bit lost and be like, who am I? Like, what is this? This doesn't feel good anymore. And like Abraham Hicks talks about how that is our sign from our inner being, that they're not in agreement, that we don't feel good, that we're no longer in resonance. And so I just feel like my inner being kind of had enough of my shit and was just like, okay, it's time to stop. Like, we're ready to move on. We've graduated from this, and you're not that anymore. We're showing up bolder. We're saying what we want. We're giving less fucks now.
I absolutely felt it today. Like, and on that nature walk I was on, like, I can't tell you, it was it was a spiritual experience. It absolutely was, where like I felt like just all these things that I've been carrying for months now, you know, some of like my friendships ended, unfortunately. And then I was feeling like everyone else's standards, like still like weighing me down, like almost like lead. And just on that walk and being alone with the universe, they started to fall off. And it was like spiritual freedom. It was like, because I'm always like worried, like, well, am I doing the wrong thing? Am I being too boisterous about that? Am I being too this? And it's like, just fucking stop. Be all of it, you know? And I think that I've had the pleasure of watching you like fully step into that. And it's gorgeous.
I almost think though that you and I doing this has like been a mirror for us to like call ourselves out a bit, because then we had an example of this compared to our regular like conversations over the phone, and we were able to like look and be like, hey, this seems like a lot more like PG, a lot more bland than our usual conversations. Is this why we wanted to do this, to like show up for other the way other people expected us to, right? Like, and so I think that this also was a part of it, don't you?
Absolutely. But what I really want to get from this is just, I want people to just feel free to be who the fuck they're meant to be. Because I think that right now that the world's stagnant right now on people still trying to play assigned roles. And I think that's been really a breakthrough for you and I. And I feel like we're just talking about ourselves so much. There's me being worried about ego, but like no more playing assigned roles, and everyone would be so much more cohesive, and things would be so much more creative and powerful and unified if everyone stopped playing assigned roles. And that's why I show up for the Roundtable, besides seeing you every week, is to empower people to stop playing an assigned role. Like, stop it. Life is precious. It is short. And everything Kim was saying, I took out of that, you know? And you see how at peace she is with herself, and she's got a PhD, and she's like living her best life. And it's like time for us to do it as well.
I wanted to like read a few things because I actually put it out there for my group. And I asked them, I was like, guys, like, we're talking about imposter syndrome. Like, what are some ways that it shows up? I like totally didn't prepare. I'm like looking for it. You just talk about something else for a moment so I can find this and read, because Emily especially, I know how we love Emily.
Yes.
And she had just such a good comment, so I need to find it.
There was quite a
What
few
else?
really amazing ones on there. I like how you're asking me to stall for time while you get your shit. Don't look at me, get your shit together.
Where's my 30-second countdown video?
No, but I mean, imposter syndrome. Crystal called me on imposter syndrome when we were having a private conversation before she came on here. And I was telling her, like, you know, Ashley wanted to put, and I was pressuring her to put the scene together, and she's like, "You're gonna do it with me," and I was like, "No way! Like, I'm not. I'll come by once in a while." And Crystal, in her like very zen way, was like, "Imposter syndrome, huh? Yummy." And I was like, I'm busted." So,
you know what I realized when we were talking to Kim as well, like because Kim shows up in as a leader within organizations and within companies, is I've realized that is something that I've made up, that like, oh, I'm just like too much of a rebel weirdo to be like in a company. And while I feel like it's changing, it's like maybe I need to like accept a little bit more right now that it's just like, yeah, a company should want to fucking hire me to help their individuals sort of like, you know, become, I don't know, like I work with business owners, so I feel like it's the same with leadership, but maybe I should stop making that up. Okay, but anyway, here is a few things that people had shared. So Emily Sellis, she had shared this, and Emily is amazing. She's a guest, a former guest on our show, on our G Word episode, and she was she's a marriage and family therapist. So she said, I tell myself that there will always be people greater than me or lesser than me, and to not let this stop me from what drives me. I also check in with my intentions. If I'm expecting myself to do the work for the other person, I'm going to be more apt to feeling like an imposter because it's not possible to do the work for anyone. When we show up with true intentions, humble and in service of the greater good, egos in check, the imposter has a harder time finding an argument to stick around.
I just love Emily.
And I feel like that is definitely a thing that happens for me, like with coaching, is like that I cannot do something for someone else. You know, in the world that you are in, that you cannot grow for somebody else, and that sometimes we feel like it's a reflection of us, but it's like really more about when we just sink into that sense of like purpose, that thing that's really bigger than all of us, that it's sort of like the imposter can exist in that dimension. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, in the world I'm in, like I can't stay sober for anyone else. I can simply introduce the tools that were passed down to me and how they've worked in my life. I cannot stay sober for anyone else. You as a coach, you know, similar things. You can only, you know, show and teach and recommend the things that were passed down to you, and people will either ignite it into their life and business or they won't. And I think that's where Emily's saying, don't involve that ego, man. And I love Emily. Her videos. I can just go off on an Emily rant right now, but I'm not gonna be present.
Another comment, Krista Marie Miller, who's amazing, and she actually did a reading for me because she's a psychic and medium, and you could look her up. But she said, I overcome by knowing that I'm a unique individual, and the way that I see a situation is going to be beneficial for somebody else. And I really love that part because, you know, I always talk about unique magic. And if I'm really sinking into my sense of uniqueness, that like, yeah, no one else has this exact combination. It's almost like, how can I be an imposter when I'm like the only one of me? And I sort of have to like outsmart my inner talk like that and be like, yeah, that's not a thing. We don't compare. What? Why are you looking at me like that?
Because I saw the theater and you come out like you're playing both characters, and it was just cute. It was like a little skit. Like I got what you were saying, but it was just cute. It was a cute Ashley moment.
I had a thought that we've never done before, like that we could pull a card, or just to see what other wisdom universe wants to like bring to us. How do you feel about that? Just like ending with that.
I love that.
Okay, you guys. So, universe, what do you have to say about imposter syndrome? What should we know? Oh, so it's the Jaguar card, and it came in upside down. So for those of you that are watching on video, see what it has to say. Number 28. I know that this card is pretty powerful. So the Jaguar is the protector of all life in the Amazon, and in times of fear, she brings courage and certainty. Jaguar is at the top of the food chain and never becomes prey. With great stealth, she can track her mark from a distance and not be seen or heard. She moves gracefully through the jungle, relishing the abundance of the rainforest, fearless and at ease. Jaguar knows the ways beyond death and is the master of the shadows, blending invisibly between light and dark, night and day. And the medicine, because it came in upside down, what in your life needs to be released? What have you carried around with you for far too long? Oh, this is good. Which is ready to be let go of once and for all. Jaguar medicine is available to heal the fear so that you can allow it to go. It's time to come out of the shadows and end the shadow games that you may have unconsciously agreed to play. Yes. Call on Jaguar to unfetter you from toxic relationships and recover your natural instinct for the right people and situations.
Yes. Fuck yeah.
Yes. This is one of my favorite decks, the Mystical Shaman Oracle. And that is the perfect message.
So, should we read Lamont's comment for our Spotify group that can't see these awesome comments that are coming up?
Yeah, we should. And by the way, you guys, I know we're going to be wrapping up here in just a moment. I want to say we're on like 6 different podcast platforms right now. So Spotify is like, I think the biggest one. And I looked and it said, because we actually, even though we're on our 8th episode, we just actually went on to like the podcast platforms and went back and uploaded everything. But I want to say it should be on Apple in the coming days. It said 7 to 10 days. So it will be on Apple pretty soon as well. It'll be on all the places that you can listen to podcasts. So Lamont was saying, how about you read it? Because I just read the card, so you should read it.
But okay. I think one way to combat imposter syndrome is to be present in the moment and to check in with yourself. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And is it true? And I love that.
I love that. They call it like interrogative self-talk. And it's like where you stop like the thoughts, because I feel like sometimes we have to break the habit of being ourselves. And I feel like there's a lot of ways that we can do that. But I think that's one of them where we stop and then our brain actually has to show up with an answer and be like, wait a second, like, we're not just going to run these old programs and old conditioning. Like, is this what we want? Lamont is so... Thank you, Lamont. I appreciate that comment.
Like our like cheerleader mom on the side. Like, you guys are doing it.
I love him.
But
so yeah, what else?
Can I say real quick though, if we get all untethered soul with it though, like if we get out of our brain completely when we're in achieving things and when we're in new positions or in new leadership, like we should disconnect from the brain because the soul is what's up. And, that was the experience I had today, walking with just my soul, like listening to music and shutting my brain up. And my soul was telling me what was up. And it was like, these old roles you're playing, they're done with. Okay. You done there? Just like with my alcoholism, like we're done here. And I had not listened to my soul for so long. So I think when you get imposter syndrome really going rampant, and I've had it a few times in my life, when you check in with your soul's gonna be like, no. So all this like reworking of the brain is interesting and it's intriguing, but like my soul knows what's up, man, and it has what's nothing to do with that shit.
I mean, I've come at this from a very spiritual standpoint as well, and I agree. I think sometimes though we're so conditioned and like in the mind that like going above it, right? Like just going to our soul is the way to sort of get out of logic. And there's just like a different resonance. It's almost like, I mean, I feel like it's sort of like the 4D, 5D, like kind of realities that we start to live in as well. Don't you think?
I wish everyone on Spotify could see how good you look tonight. I don't mean that like in a come on to you kind of way. You just look really good tonight.
Thank you. I wish everyone on Spotify could see your photos from Facebook. But if you guys, if if you guys, I'm just telling you, like, I mean, you could join our Facebook group. You could join the Spiritual Rebels and Misfits group on Facebook. And then you'll be able to sort of like, Solange is like, here we go again.
Actually, I want to clarify something, all right? All right, you've become a troll on my Facebook, all right? My penis will not be a topic of the show. My penis will not be a guest on the show, all right? I'm setting down hard boundaries.
I didn't even say it on the penis. I mean, I said anyway, we really legit let a pendulum, like, choose our topics. I mean, you could, instead of me doing it, I'm sure that your penis could sort of like that. I think that that's sort of like the thing is it could be like a pendulum and you could just take that role over. You know, I've been trying to like, yeah.
My penis is not a pendulum. All right. You ruined a beautiful moment. Tell everyone what we're talking about next week, please. Can you give them a hint about what we're talking about?
Okay. So next week is about, which, by the way, if you or somebody you know meets, you know, wants to talk about any of these things, I feel like we're like very like Maury Povich. I wanna actually make like a very Maury Povich like outro. It's like if you or somebody you know has had an experience with aliens or UFOs.
Has you or a family member been abducted? No.
We're gonna have some aliens with a lie detector test next week. We're gonna see if okay, stop.
Bring it back.
Bring it back in. But anyway, there's next week is actually gonna be about like this balance of like the divine masculine and feminine energies that really exist within all of us and really kind of finding that and owning that and seeing what's there and how it's a beautiful gift. And in the upcoming weeks, we're also going to talk about aliens and UFOs. And we are actually like really like wanting you guys to connect us, like tag some people. Like who is your most like, you know, freaky, like alien channeling friend, you know, you're the person that's like has had a UFO experience. Like we want to talk to you. And then we're also going to go into the realm of like postpartum, into what basically like real life, like that year after having a baby. Like I think there's going to be some conversations of like postpartum depression, things that are like baby blues, things about our bodies, really just everything that happens and how it changes us and how it shifts us, and really allowing that to be something that is okay to be talked about. That it doesn't mean that someone's like not grateful for being a mom, but that's what we have coming up for the rest of August. Anything else before we tune out, my beautiful co-host?
I think that about nails it. I just hope everyone joins the group. I hope they got something out of this. I just love spending time with you. And
I love it. I love it. Thank you guys. And subscribe, like, so that you guys can get the next episode. Like, go and look on the podcast. You guys know that you're like on your phone all the time. Like, go to your podcast thing and find us and subscribe and like leave us a review or do whatever people do to like help podcasts. Just do that, all that stuff, please.
Because we don't know
very much.
Right. Bye,
I told you, trial and error. Bye, everybody.